Yeah, we'll make
All
this
right, we are live.
Well,
Live.
hello.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Event Hustler Show. Today is super, super special. I have some amazing guests on this show, but today maybe this tops all the guests that we've had so far. Nothing against them, but I love having a good conversation with Dahlia. Dahlia, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
I feel
But
like
if
the
you
world
let your
knows you.
curls down, then it would be awesome.
I know. I wore the curls in honor of you, but I really couldn't pull it off. It was like this big. I wasn't sure what to do with it. I had to just. You have a nice face. Mine is like too wide, and then you add the hair.
Oh my God. We're gonna have to like work on that. Like this whole like comment that you just did right now. But yes, I'm super happy to be with you and chatting away. So let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. So we were just talking. This is like how all the conversations go. 10 minutes before we go live, we start talking and then we get into all these great topics and then we have to start all over again. But this is what I love about this podcast is it's live. So there are people already watching live. Hello, everyone. Tell us that you're here. Say hi to us. Put some comments and questions where you're watching. I see Roxanne is here. She says aloha.
Hi, Roxanne.
So glad to have her here. And really, it's just like being able to eavesdrop in on these conversations that we would otherwise just be catching up.
Where should we message?
Start? Yeah, exactly. Or Clubhouse or whatever.
Exactly.
Where do you want to start? We were just talking about trends and like just people's energy levels being really different.
Yeah,
and there are many things we could talk about right now.
Totally. I do want to see if we are on this right. It's not a trend, but it's some sort of insight. Like a lot, I think you and I are feeling it maybe in different ways, but I honestly think that people, our event profs, our peers, and our friends are mentally fatigued. It has nothing to do with Zoom. It has nothing to do with screens. With all the conversations and office hours that I have, et cetera, I feel that they're tired. They're mentally exhausted. It's actually more challenging than last year. And I would love to hear if someone's like, hell no, are you kidding? This year is a blast compared to last year. But I do think that, there's this whole mental fatigue that's also impacting and slowing down decision making. Let's wait and see what's happening. And granted, like I hope it's not a global symptom of what happened, but it's telling, and it's telling not only from event planner side. It's also the suppliers, and it's like you run, and then what? And I think it's going to impact the quality of the experiences, the strategy type of conversations, because the other part of it is like our conversations internally with our teams and our C-suite and even with our stakeholders. I think it's at a different level. It's not at the level that we were at before. And I think that's overwhelming for some.
Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting. I mean, just think personally, right? The last year.
You ask why the hair is big. Yeah, the hair is big for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like everything that's happening in the events industry, which is insanity. And then everything happening in the world, everything happening with family, with safety, security. And then it's the constant changing. It's like, you're going to do an event. What are the rules? I don't know, because they're going to change 500 times between now and like whenever that event happens. So you're trying to plan. I mean, event professionals are good at working on the fly, but this is like a whole nother level.
It is totally a whole nother level. It's, it's the skill set that they had and excelled at, but it's like times 100. And, we as event planners or subplanners, however you want to call us, I want that back, by the way. I want that ribbon back, but it's almost as if worst case scenario planning is a skill, and it has to be like up front and center on any resumes, any LinkedIn. Cat herding is a skill.
Yes.
right? And more so than anything, empathy has to be up there, not only with your team members, not only with your attendees. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know if they come face to face, if they're going to be afraid, or are they going to be excited, or are they going to be like afraid excited, like you have no idea. And you have to be empathetic to yourself more than anything. Like, and I'm like listening and talking to you, and I have people saying, well, you should take your own advice, Miss Dahlia, like, but I mean, don't you think like empathy has never had such a role like now?
Yeah. I mean, it's just there are limits to our capacity as human beings to continue doing things. And then, I feel like we've hit those limits in the last year in many times, over and over and over again. And you start to realize like either we have to take care of ourselves, and it's kind of like the habits are changing too.
Yes.
It's been a year since we've been in person. There's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to go and like give Dahlia a hug at the next big event. But if you told me the next big event is June 15th, I would not be going. It's like, but I still, like, as much as I'm excited about that, like all of our habits have changed. So like, how do you deal with that? I was talking about, you did this whole session at Fastlane about engagement, and you had all these amazing ideas. What I loved mostly about your presentation was it wasn't so much about like polling, Q&A.
Oh, I stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. It was all the better stuff, like the ways to really make people happy and get them engaged with your event. But I've been thinking so much about like, people don't want to be engaged right now. It's hard to get people to buy tickets. It's hard to get people to show up, even for virtual. It's not just the in-person component, but it's like, how many things have we done virtually? Do you want to show up for another virtual event? It has to be pretty unique.
Yeah. And I think, the real key here is the emotional connection. And so you have to work super hard at like instigating that emotion, right?
Yeah.
And that whole emotion, with whether it's a virtual or it's Liz and Dahlia again, like, and it's like, so what is that emotional connection? And I was actually talking to Kiki last week or the week before, because time is a war for me. And we were kidding, but like it's not a joke. So I'm here, I'm thinking, and I love events. You know me. Like I was like, oh, there's the coffee corner, and then there's Dahlia. Go like, to both. But but the thing that I'm realizing is I want to be very selective on the next event that I go to. I don't want huge numbers. I want the right people, like the Liz and the Tess, that I can hug, and squeeze and say, oh my God, I missed you type of thing. But I'm like, I want to be sure. It's not that I'm afraid. It's just, I want the right crowd around me. So I'm like, that's my emotional comfort zone, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the opposite thing is like, I would love to go back to face, but in my head, I'm like, I might end up in my room on a couch with the people that I want to watch the show with virtually, that's downstairs, with white cheddar popcorn. And that was Kiki and my thing. We're like, oh my God, we love white cheddar popcorn. We're like, that was the emotional hook between the two of us. And then Tahira came in and she's like, I like white cheddar popcorn.
Who doesn't like white cheddar popcorn? But see, if someone like you, Dahlia, the queen of events, like literally every industry event that's happening, I saw you there. And in any other industry, I saw you there. You're really rethinking, what does the next event look like that I go to? Like, what does that mean for everyone else? What does it mean for the introverts like me who didn't want to go to the events in the first place?
And then I pull you in and like introduce you to everybody. And they're like, oh my God, it's a celebrity. It's Liz. Let's take pictures. I remember that too.
Yeah, so, that was just in your brain, but
it's the real thing. Come on. But the thing about it, this is where we have to like step back, where you are going to have the extroverts, or those that were like, brand ambassadors at your events, not only our industry events, not the MPIs and the at PCMAs and so forth, but like, think of it from your own association, and you have to be empathetic, and you have to like dial in to that personal, connection. Oh, white cheddar popcorn, got it. Remember when Lindsay Foltz took us to do the influencer
in Long Beach?
At Long Beach. Do you remember the basket that she put together for us? Awesome. And it had all our snacks. It had the magazines we love to look at and stuff like that. And it was ready for us. And that was how many years ago? That was 7?
Yeah, 7 or 8, I would say.
Guess how relevant that is right now. Seriously. And it goes back to that emotional connection, making a memory. It sticks with you, all of that. And I think that might be the overwhelming part, because you really have to dive into what your event participants are really about. And you're almost working from scratch in a way. There's no benchmarks. You might have a wonderful benchmark from a virtual side from last year, but where maybe you got 150,000 people virtually like CES did, and now they're going live in 2022 in Vegas. And in my head, I'm sure the team figured it out, but in my head, I'm like, so what are you going to do with the 150,000 that dialed in last year? Are you going to continue, or are you just going to say, you got to show up in Vegas?
I mean, I think it's smarter. That's the nicer way to say it. Yeah. It'd be a lot smarter that's why hybrid, right? That's why everyone's thinking about hybrid. How do we keep that virtual audience, differentiate what we're doing in person so that people come back? Because obviously there's no point in putting on the in-person if everyone only likes the virtual. But how do you hold on to that piece?
Right. But and I'm interested to know how people are strategizing that and bringing in all the different people involved with that decision making, because that's the cat herding component that I'm honestly, I tell them, you can't do things alone anymore. It's you need to be collaborative more so now than ever.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes me want to bring up something. Speaking of collaborative, did we share something? I do see we have some live watchers. I'm going to let you do it.
Come on. Well, I mean, So people have been dropping hints, and people have been asking, well, we remember a hybrid, event from way back in the day before hybrid was a word, which is actually true.
Yeah.
So we're talking 2016, Liz.
I know, that was a long time ago.
It's 5 years ago. Anyway, so yes. So the collaboration and the news to share is that we are bringing back ControlLDelete. Yay! Woo! Confetti guns. I forgot my confetti guns. But, and this is and it's been an interesting on and off. Should we do it? Should we not? And I know that you put this up on your news feed, so I'm not sharing something brand new. But life happens, work happens, world happens, and congratulations on the new addition to your family.
Thank you.
Because Lucas is to die for. So a part 2 like him.
2 of them, I know. What would we do?
Well, I don't know what Craig would do, but I have a couple of ideas. But yes, ControlLDelete is in the works. And we would love to hear what people have ideas or about timing. If you say you need it in 72 hours, that will not happen. Because I think ControlLDelete 2016 happened in less than 4 weeks.
Yes, that was an insane event. So what if there are people who don't know about ControlLDelete?
All right.
What was it? And what exactly are we bringing back?
So exactly. Oh, you left that to me, huh?
Yeah. So we haven't, just, full transparency, we have not really planned all the details. We just said, are we going to do this or not? Yeah, we're going to do it. So now we're just kind of bringing it up very casually. And
we are bringing it up very casually. And it's kind of mind-bending that it left such a mark on people. But basically, let's rewind for a second. ControlLDelete came about because woohoo, Facebook user, you have to put your name.
Go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and let us know your name and profile picture, please.
So ControlLDelete came about because there was an amazing group of event profs that were contracted and we're going to another event in Holland. And all of a sudden, that event got canceled, actually dropped very quickly. And so there was this whole flurry of, what are we going to do? Do we cancel our airplane tickets, all of that? And then Liz and I and Aaron, we sort of, and Will and a bunch of others, we're like, well, why? Let's salvage it and do something fun. So basically, well, for selfish reasons, I didn't want to cancel my flights to Amsterdam. It was also a family affair. So that's one. But what happened very, very quickly is we tapped into our network. We tapped into our lanes of expertise, if you will. And we were able to bring together a virtual event. So that was like the hub, if you will, where Liz spearheaded it from New York. I spearheaded it from Amsterdam. And then all of a sudden, automagically, we had, I think, 16 pods worldwide, where people were viewing it together. So imagine that. That's 5 years ago. So that
was a hybrid event. Everyone thinks that like hybrid just popped up in 2020, but we've been doing it for years.
Exactly. I'm not going to say we perfected it, because I don't know if you can actually. No. But no, it was very engaging. It had an amazing speaker lineup, and I think that the secret sauce, or the secret of success behind it, was that it was co-created with several other event profs, and they came with all these ideas of, well, this is what we can do on the networking, and this is what we can share, and this is what we can celebrate. And I think we celebrated Tahira's birthday, if I'm not mistaken, because I still have that video. Yeah. And yeah, it was, so we're bringing it back, but we want to bring it back in a different way. We haven't nailed that down yet. And we're open to ideas, because I do think the collaboration between you and me is amazing, as well as co-creating with other event profs, and just seeing how we can embed and infuse all these ideas that other people can say, oh, I'm going to have this and take that and customize it for my event.
We already have co-collaborators.
I might have to go to Hawaii. I mean,
I think we should just do it from Hawaii. Then other people can manage New York and Boston and all these other locations.
Let's do that.
But imagine what we pulled off in 3 weeks with 16 pods. And granted, it wasn't just, the two of us pulling it. Like you said, it was a truly collaborative effort. Like everyone I felt like in the industry was clamoring.
Yeah. Everybody was like, I want to be part of it. This is exciting. And that's the emotional hook, I think, that made it succeed.
So imagine what we could do if we had like a few months to plan it, or or like, double the time, 6 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, and this actually, the lead time is critical, especially in the year we're in. Not only for us, for ControlLDelete, like when you say, oh, imagine it's a luxury, right? Compared to what we did. But I also think that, it's something that is going back to how we started the conversation in regards to people being overwhelming and exhausted and so forth, is they are almost like in a wait and see moment right now. Yeah. They want to go back to live. They know they need to do the digital aspect, or like the event. They can't wrap their head around like, oh, can I be on site and do the digital all at once from my phone? Or how am I going to do this, with a team of 1.5 maybe people? But the other part is the lead time. So like, this is where I worry about the planning phase, where people are asked to do so much more, but their lead time is kind of shortening. And you really don't know that putting on those two events And I'm going to have like a slew of people saying, oh, I know, believe me, I know. And then they're chugging something, whether it's coffee or wine, you don't know. But like, it's, it has to be a conversation that has to be had right now. You don't necessarily have to do your digital over the same time frame as your live event. And if you already have a plan, validate it. And if you already validated and can't get the buy-in internally, because that's an issue as well, then you have to figure out who's going to help you do that. And then on the flip side, you have the suppliers, because you and I, we're tapped in. You know, I think you and I have them on speed dial, especially the ones that like, what are you doing? You know, like to my client or to my friend, don't do that. But they need the time. And I think, you know, the commitment is, you can't just have a signed contract in your hand and think you're going to be serviced, or that you're going to have part. I mean, you just shared with me a story, right? Yeah. You want to share the story?
Yeah, about this client. Yeah, so I was just sharing that there was a client that we worked with earlier this year who used a certain platform. I won't name names, but it was great. And then, you know, they came back and then suddenly said, hey, we were thinking we would go back to using Zoom, but apparently we still want to use this new thing that you showed us. It's so different. And I was just saying, you know, like that's what's going to be happening, is you're trying all these new things. Some of them are going to stick, and everyone's going to change their expectations around. Like a year ago, June, July 2020, Zoom was great. And, and there's nothing against Zoom, but like now we've seen all these platforms and they're innovating. But you and I were saying too, like they're changing so fast. Some of the stuff is great, and some of it is like, what are you doing? Like, why and your whole pricing structure, or what? That doesn't make any sense the way you're doing it. You know, I've had those calls too with the companies. Like, I'm looking at your website. It makes no sense to me, and I really know what I'm looking at here. If it doesn't make sense to me, it's not gonna make sense to anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Well, Zoom announced today that they are going to have a virtual event platform. So yay for them. You know, we'll see how much change that's going to cause as well. And then, you know, you have like the Ciscos of the world that are buying Slido, and then now Socio, and then they have WebEx and all of that good stuff as well. So for putting it on our event profs plate to understand the nuances, the changes that are happening. But like you said, you up the game, you had a platform, you set expectations to all your, you know, your stakeholders, and then all of a sudden you want to bring them back. And what's going to happen? The loyalty is going to go down, the ROI or the expectations, or like, wait a minute, why am I back on a Brady Bunch screen? Like, what happened here? You know, and then you're, and the work is going to be, you're going to have to figure them out all over again. You're going to have to like sell them on something all over again, especially your sponsors, right? And these are the ones that were like yapping the most. They wanted to know what they were going to get. And it has to be different. It totally has to be different. The expectations, I believe, in the future, which is something that I don't think there's money put aside for it yet from our event organizers. There are some that do it, but not necessarily, you know, a line item in a budget, for example, is the content creation. Yeah. And I think the content is going to be differentiating like events going forward.
Now, so, I mean, everyone's been talking since like 2009. Event organizers are now content creators. They're now content marketers. But I agree that I think the last year has really changed what that looks like and what that means. Like, it's not necessarily about pushing out 5,000 social media posts and writing a new blog every day. What do you think are some of the things that have changed in the last year? And why is content now like even more a focus and kind of in a different way than it was like 2009?
So in the last year, the creator economy has boomed. Yeah. In the last year, there are so many content creators in different formats, different flavors, different like ways of saying a message, and it's a lot, but it's awesome because it can be opportunities to gain new attendees, for example, or new viewership, for example. And we need that. So we need those like bumps. So if you have your 45-minute sessions, 90-minute sessions, 2-hour sessions, you need those bumps of like those reels, for example, or like the TikTok type of format, or like the quick, here's a punch list of what you need to know of, like, I don't know what topic, for example. That takes a lot of brain width to figure out, to strategize, to plan out, for example. And, yeah, we're supposed to be content creators, but as event organizers, especially if your eye is going back to live, you're worried about meat safe. You're worried about like, what's your food and beverage going to look like? So you have to leave it to others that can think on your behalf, have the vision and send it over. Woman power, Karen. Love it. Like, yes. Like it's, so I think content, because we've consumed so much content in the past year and some, I think even more so than since 2009. And the other part is your speakers are not trained for all of this. So I'm going to leave that one right there.
That's the end of that comment.
They need to be trained. They need to be, they need to be trained as actors as part of the production.
Yeah, I mean, that whole influencer economy has been like booming for the past few years. And then you've got the creator piece, and then there's things like Clubhouse that come in. And I think we're going to really see events that kind of flip complete formats. Instead of putting these experts on stage and they're going to talk for 1 hour, you're going to have your attendees like popping up topics all the time, and they're leading the conversation. And, it's not so much about like the 7 keynote speakers listed on your website. But to your point, it's about, I'm going to meet Dahlia and she's going to talk about this thing. I've been dying to talk about that thing. That's much more, I think, the future of the industry, to get people to go back, not just in person, but to come to virtual. Like, I think that's the experience people want.
And so the agility. So when we talk about agility and like think on your feet, where like you said, maybe a speaker takes a stage and all of a sudden there's these 3 tangent topics that come up, and all of a sudden you see your social media feed blow up. Oh my God, Liz was on stage and she talked about creator economy. What the heck is it? And then you're going to be able to say, okay, let's open a conversation pod right away, and open a Clubhouse right away. And then on Swapcard, do like an audio channel, blah, 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 whatever the sexy word is, of the day. But this is where it's going to be like, we're going to do it right now. We're going to go live on LinkedIn, or let's stream like through StreamYard, do whatever. And I think that plays with event profs' minds quite a bit, because it's not on the run of the show.
Right, exactly. So, it doesn't fit nicely into the minute by minute.
No, it doesn't fit nicely.
That we're so used to living.
No.
So are we just like actively planning Control-Alt-Delete here? Because I feel like this is the perfect format to test. Because we're talking about it. I think it's a great idea. But really, it takes some people to just say like, that's cool, let's try it, and figure out the 50 ways that it fails and all the confusion that comes up. And then all the stuff that's like, I want it, like you said earlier, I want to take that part and do that at my event.
Well, and I like the 50 ways of failing, because then you know what you can do better, So you and I think, are in the mindset of take what we're talking about, or take what we did and do you better. But tell us like how you did it better, or take an epic fail moment and say, I would have done it different. And that's how we need to be agile that way. And we need to do it from a production perspective. AV is going to change as well.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, I get hit all the time with like these ads on Facebook and on Insta about like these new studio like setups and cameras and that. And I geek out. I'm sure Craig geeks out, where he's like, oh my God, we need to like play, right? Does that happen?
Yeah, we might have to make a studio in our house or something just at this point. There's so much tech we want to try.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I'm saying, you know, this is where we can definitely co-create Control-Alt-Delete. And maybe we need to just open like a group for it and have at it. And if someone comes and says, yes, I want to talk about blah, blah, blah on Clubhouse, have at it. You're in.
I think those are the best events, you know, where you're kind of saying like what we're about to do is new. It's different. It's probably half of it's not going to work, right? But it's really going to push the boundaries and we're going to learn together and we're going to have a really good time. I mean, those event camp events that we all attended back 2009, 2010, whatever.
I miss those.
Those were great. I mean, and they were great events. They weren't mostly failures. There was a lot that I learned from that. Those were hybrid events that, you know, like now people are looking back and saying like, whoa, that was really cool. That was 10 years early.
That was a great
way. Yeah.
The best part about those events are the connections you made.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, everyone that I met at those events are still the people I'm closest to in the industry.
Absolutely. And that's what we need. It's a ripple effect. And that's what we need from where we're at right now. I think it's more the networking, it's the connections, it's that emotional connection, and then just helping each other out. So,
yeah. Well, I realize I'm over time. I'm just enjoying your chat. I didn't realize it's like already past our 30 minutes. And I know you have a very busy life. Any last kind of things you want to share with us or talk about before we go? I want to be
just hug yourself, like everybody here. Just hug yourself hard, like and take time to breathe. And I know I sound like hypocritical because I should do more of that, but your brain width is valued, and you need to keep that intact. So therefore, breathe, and you're not in this alone. And you know, there's people out there that can help you out, and two of them are right here. One has her curls up, one has her curls down. But like I'm just saying, we're all here. The TECHSYTALK community's here. We're here, and we got you.
Yeah, I got your back too, Dahlia. So you should take that time for yourself too. I know it's, you know, it's like one of those things you see in other people. You're like, you should calm down. Like, and then you look at your own life. You're like, I'm pretty sure I never do that myself.
True. Very true.
Message. It means everyone needs to hear it, including you and me. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for taking time to chat. I'm so excited to work on Control-Delete. If you guys are watching and you have some ideas, email us. I don't know. Ping us on any platform in the world.
I know, we're there.
And then we'll, you know, obviously share some more details once we get our brains around what exactly we're doing and when. Dahlia, always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you so much for your time today.
All right.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next week.
Ciao.